Hello and welcome back to the Rustbelt Collector channel. Might be surprising to some of you. This isn't a channel about collecting rust. It's about collecting action figures, for the most part, and other random crap sometimes. But anyways, today we are taking a look at the TVC The Mandalorian Moff Gideon action figure. Really excited to have this one in hand, honestly. It's a fantastic figure from just my first impressions of it, and I think we'll see more of that as we get along into the review, but a couple things stand out that I'm not terribly fond of, but we will get into that. Before we do though, there is a link down in the description to Big Bad Toy Store if you're interested in this figure or any other figure from the Mandalorian line, in TVC, in Black Series, any of the new pre-orders in any of those lines as well, along with really any selection of figures you could ever want. Transformers, anime, they've got Sideshow collectibles, TVC, Black Series, all the major figure lines you could ever dream of, ever hope of. They are there. They are there for pre-order. They are in stock. And if you use the link down in my description, you help me out a little bit, and I do appreciate that. So go check out that link, check out Big Bad Toy Store, and start adding to your collection amazing figures such as this one. So first, let's take a look at the card art. I think they chose it's a little dirty. Get out of there, dirt. First off, I think they chose a pretty good photo of him. I think the only other real good option for season 1 Moff Gideon would have been the scene where he confronts them in the town with all the death troopers behind him, stuff like that. I think that'd be a good selection as well, but this is really nice, especially with the dark saber. It's got the red card art. It looks really nice, and on the back you can see, if I pan the camera up, you can see there the Darth Vader figure, which I really do want to get from this line, Captain Rex, which is just a repack of that really crappy Doom mold, so I'm not picking up that one. Mandalorian, which my Walmart pre-order just got canceled today, so that's not going to happen. Hondo, Anaka, the Armorer, Moff Gideon, ARC-Trooper 5s, and Shrewd Imwe. All fantastic figures, honestly, except for Captain Rex. These are all amazing TVC releases, and I'm very glad that they have finally gotten around to releasing some TVC figures for us TVC fanatics, or really just 3 3/4 inch fanatics in general, but it's nice to see these figures finally coming out. A little disappointed with the distribution of them so far. I didn't find this figure in stores. This was my pre-order through Big Bad Toy Store that came in, and if I hadn't had that in place, I wouldn't have had this figure to review, unfortunately. Now, as always, we have to start with accessories, and there's only a few to talk about, so we'll breeze through this. First off, there's just this little tiny dinky little pistol that can slot right into his holster, which is probably where I'm going to keep it forever, because it is so small that I am terribly afraid I will lose it. So there's that. He, of course, also comes with this cape, which isn't great. It's a rubberized cape. It doesn't do much. It's just pegged onto his back like that. It doesn't really come over his shoulders very much either, which is kind of my biggest critique. I don't mind rubberized capes, but it doesn't look very good on him. It doesn't come over his shoulders. It just kind of floats there behind him. And so I would honestly say you might want to consider just displaying him like this. I don't think he looks bad. If you do keep him with the cape, it's not a big deal either. I just think they could have gone a better route with the cape overall. And then finally, he comes with perhaps the most coveted of all accessories, the dark saber. Overall, the detail on this item or accessory is pretty much what you would expect. I mean, I don't know what else you'd really do with the dark saber. It's got the white paint taps along the edge, the black core, the black hilt. The only thing that I could really see doing differently would be adding little white markings there where it's kind of illuminated on the hilt. You can kind of see that here on the card art where it's illuminated there, right there on the hilt. And that would be nice. That'd be just one additional little detail they could have used. But apart from that, it's pretty much what you'd expect with a dark saber. I don't know what else you could really do with something pretty much colorless as this. You know, it's got a blade, and then it's got the white glow, and that's really it. And it's difficult to translate that into action figure form, so I think they did what they could with it. Now, as for the rest of the figure, it's actually pretty jam-packed full of detail. First off, we gotta talk about the face. I mean, this is pretty much as close as you'll ever get to the perfect sculpt for this actor. I can't remember his name offhand. I'm terrible with names of actors most times. But it just looks so good. It's very accurate to the character, better than the Black Series head sculpt for this figure, honestly. It's awesome. And I'm loving it. Like, I'm loving these detailed head sculpts in 3 3/4 inch. It's amazing. As for the rest of the figure, you've got this really nice glossy armor over top of a more matte or satin finished tunic, which looks amazing. Red pinstriping down the arms, down the legs, and on his belt, which looks great as well. And overall, just the sculpt work, the little details on his gloves, the details on his belts and his chest armor there, it just looks so fantastic. Really glad that they did this figure justice. I think all the figures from the Mandalorian line honestly look amazing. It's just been the matter of actually tracking them down. So if they could just perfect distribution the way that they've perfected these beautiful face sculpts here, that'd be amazing. Now then, let's take a look at the articulation on this figure. Probably pretty much what you'd come to expect with a TVC figure. I say that with pretty much all of them because honestly they're pretty much the same. Apart from a few various little details, it's the same standard level of articulation, which I appreciate. You know, they're not lacking in that area. They're just reusing a system that works, and it's working very well. So there's no complaints in that area really. It's just to kind of brush you guys up on what to expect with this. But double ball joint in the head as usual, so side to side, looks forward, looks back, looks up in the sky and sees the Mandalorians coming to take the child. And yeah, he can look any way you need him to look. The only thing is, I feel like the neck is slanted forward, like the neck here in the torso is just ever so slightly slanted forward, and sometimes in some poses it just makes me feel like he's just got bad posture. I don't know how else to describe it. It's an unfortunate detail, but it's not a game breaker, a deal breaker? A deal breaker. It's not a deal breaker. It's just a small little gripe. Looking at his armor here, I didn't really notice this before, but I think the armor is actually a separate piece that's just glued onto his torso. It's not removable. His tunic is separate underneath it, but yeah, it's definitely a separate piece, which is interesting. At the shoulders, a hinge and a swivel, so up to well past 90, and the armor is nice and soft, so it's not going to impede that in any way. Swivel forward, swivel back, you don't really want to go much past that to stress the armor there. So it's a good range of articulation there. Single jointed elbow gets you just past 90, which is nice. Hinge and a swivel at the wrist, being a up and down hinge here, as well as on this hand, so you can go up and down there, swivel it all the way around, and we gotta just appreciate the level of detail on those gloves. My goodness, they really outdid themselves with that. Always love to see little details like that packed into an action figure in this scale. It's really quite impressive. Then at the torso, we have a ball joint in the torso, so he can go side to side, he can go forward with an ab crunch, decently far. You can go back, and it's not really impeded by any of the armor, so it's a pretty open range of motion there. Now down to the hips, they're a little bit tricky. They're definitely not used to moving yet, but there is this like rubberized cape skirt dealio with his tunic that could get in the way of some of the articulation, but you can hinge that forward there and get it to right about there. Pretty good, actually. Then there's the thigh swivel as usual. Try and get that hip back into place. There we go. And you can always tell which side is correct when you get the pinstripes to line up there. And then you have a single jointed knee, which can bend basically to 90. Always nice. Again, just like with Sharut Imwe, it's got this really nice sculpting coming down over the knee joint, so it's harder to see the ugly joint when you're posing him, which is just awesome. I love seeing that. Then going down to the foot here, we have the hinge forward and up, and then we also have a rocker, which is so awesome to see. I guess that's becoming like the new standard with vintage collection figures. You will have absolutely no complaints from me with a figure like this having a rocker in the ankle joints. It's very, very nice. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to really say about this figure other than it is another really good release, like a really solid release from TVC. It's a shame that they don't put out more in a year. They put out like 9 new figures in 2020, and I get with the whole, distribution and manufacturing issues that we had early on, but They cranked out quite a number of Black Series figures, so I know that that's not something that they can't do. So I hope that with like this level of quality figures, that it continues to be this level of quality, but then they just start cranking out new characters, because it's really impressive to see the evolution of what 3 3/4 inch figures used to be, which was still good by all standards, it was good, but what they have become now is just amazing. So hopefully we'll get more characters, we'll get more distribution, and we'll see some improvements in this line. As for scale, since a lot of people probably would want to know how he stacks up with his stormtroopers, we have the Remnant Stormtrooper here, and kind of like with Sharut Imwe, he is tiny. I don't know why they've kind of shifted with this into more of a short action figure style. I mean, he's definitely taller than stormtroopers in the show from the scenes that I've seen, and he's got like the death troopers behind him, and those guys are 6 foot at least. I don't think that the actor is really this short in the show. Just by comparison, we can see he is taller than Sharut Imwe, which I suppose could be accurate, but it's very strange that we have such tall stormtroopers and such short main characters. But anyways, keep that in mind when you're looking at this figure. Just remember, maybe if you have the stormtroopers back a little bit like that, it'll look better, but it's still really odd to me that he is such a short king. He's a short king. I don't know. So maybe I'm just talking about something I don't know anything about. It could be that. It's probably that, honestly, but that it is what it is. There's the figure, there's the card back, there's all the good stuff and all the bad stuff about this figure. Overall, even with like the height issue and the cape issue, I think this is still a good release and one you should definitely pick up. If you're a fan of the Mandalorian like me, you gotta have the main villain, Moff Gideon, and I think they did an excellent job of executing this figure, especially with that face sculpt. My goodness, that's just so good. But anyways, that's where I'm going to wrap up this video. As always, link in the description to my social media, to the P.O. Box address if you want to send anything into the channel. There's also a link to Big Bad Toy Store. I think this guy is still up for pre-order, so if you order now, you should see it relatively soon, I would expect. No promises, but just if you're interested, check out the link. You can find this figure and many others on there. And as always, guys, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next video.